Yeah, I mean, had everything that you would be looking for out of a major with that finish, but um, we
Not a
don't need to
major.
call it that. Not a major.
Welcome to Center Cup. I'm Kyle Miserino here as always with Will Neary and Nick Newmeyer, and we've got a recap Monday today, and what a weekend it was. Another terrific finish at the Players as Cam Young came out on top, dueling it out with Matt Fitzpatrick down the stretch. Actually coming down to the 72nd hole of the tournament on 18, which was super fun. There was a little bit news about the PGA Tour schedule last week, upping the signature events and some other stuff. We put a TikTok out, so go check that out if you want a little more in-depth talk about that. TikTok at centercup.pod. So please check that out. We're not going to go too much in depth on that, but just wanted to briefly mention it. But let's start today recapping the Players. Lived up to the hype. Awesome tournament, another awesome finish, and a great weekend. A bunch of good guys on the leaderboard moving around a ton. And let's start off here, Nick. As someone who picked Ludvig to win pre-tournament and who was in control most of the tournament, and in addition to being our resident Matty Fitz apologist, what were you thinking coming down the final stretch on the second nine on Sunday?
See, I was really torn. Like, first and foremost, I think if we were to pick anybody that you would expect to have like a Sunday back nine collapse, the last person you would expect was Ludvig Åberg. Like he's someone that his swing is just robotic. It's so fluid. He's just emotionless throughout the entire week. I was not expecting him to have the finish that he did, and just seeing it all happen within the blink of an eye. Was it two consecutive water balls on uh was it
11
13
and
and 4?
12.
Yeah, 11 and 12, that's
11
right.
and 12.
um that was almost impressive. Like I did not expect that to happen. Matt Fitzpatrick, he was someone that I had said last week as well. So like I could take credit for him winning as well. That's somewhere where I can, that it would have been glory for both results for me. But I had kind of mentioned earlier last week that I needed to see a little bit more results from him before I could start like consistently backing him, just because he's someone that has had a really good career, but just hasn't really had much success on the PGA Tour. But I would definitely say he did that this week. I think just going off the tee, I think he was either the leader or very close to the top of the leaderboard and strokes gained off the tee. Um, Driving accuracy, he led the field. It was just lights out the entire week off the tee, especially at a course where you need to have that kind of accuracy. And he was putting it close with his wedges. He was making the putts when he needed to. There were a couple holes where I think it was the 14th hole where he put himself kind of far off on the green and then three putted. And then obviously, I mentioned it to Will right before we went live. The irony that he was the most accurate player in the field, and then his bogey on 18 came off of missing the fairway, basically.
Yeah.
And so it was just it was a really interesting finish. It was somewhere where at first I thought, once this kicked off, I'm like, there's no way Ludwig's not going to blow this. And then he did, and then there was no way that Fitz was going to blow it. And then he did. And then all of a sudden Cam Young comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think what you said about Ludvig was so true. Like we were texting a little bit about this yesterday. It's just like, yeah, man, if there was anybody that I would have thought was gonna hit water balls like that, one, it wouldn't be Ludvig, but one, it especially wouldn't be Ludvig. Going the back to back is what really shocked me. I mean, 11's a par five, played under par every single day. Obviously, it's like it stripes a driver down the center of the fairway, like 300 plus yards. I think he had like 267 yards, I think is what I saw on PGA Tour into the green on his second. And I know I can see Nick smiling a little bit at the 6-7 there. But there's, in approaching that green, you can miss 30 yards left and I'm 75 yards short. Like there's so much room over there. And there's still even a bunker right. And you still just flared it right into the water. That was, one thing, he makes a bogey, but then to do that on back-to-back holes, especially off the tee, we've been missing on like the right side of golf holes all day. It's kind of something we talked about last Wednesday, just talking about like how at this course you really need to be able to manage where you miss. And we saw that a ton down the stretch. I mean, Ludwig finding obviously it wasn't a tee ball on 11, but then pulls his driver into the water on 12. Matt Fitzpatrick, well, 18 just doesn't give you anywhere to miss, unfortunately, which I think is another thing that I was saying to Nick. before we got on. It's just like this course, man, I feel like was one of the highlights of this whole week. Like I think the
Mhm.
course played fantastic. You greens were hard. The rough looked impossible. Like it was like up to your knees. It looked like, I know it was not up to your knees, like five. I think they said 5.5, 6 inches on Sunday, which is ridiculously long. But the course was a highlight to me. But down the stretch, I mean, yeah, I thought it really did emphasize it exploited the mistakes that people made, and Ludwig's mistakes were kind of self-inflicted, unfortunately. Like Fitzpatrick's, on 18, you land your drive in the fairway, it kicks straight into the woods. That's sort of just the nature of the architecture of 18, unfortunately, which is part of why it's such a fantastic hole. You just don't have any room anywhere. You can land it in the fairway and still screw yourself. But Ludwig's were completely self-inflicted, which again, like you said, Nick, was just not something that was expected at all. He is like the most stoic human being. Obviously, in that final pairing, you had Thor Bjornsson, who made an 8 on the fourth hole, I think. He put a ball in the water, and I think he went rough to chip out to water to chip onto the green to three putt quad bogey. The fourth hole, and that was kind of the ejection you might have expected from somebody like who's a little bit less experienced, like Thor Bjornsson. But obviously, Ludvig's been in these moments. He's won on the PGA Tour. I was really, really shocked to see him, because the one water ball on 11, fine, but then it was pretty visible that he was rattled on 12, and that was part of the little pole hook into the water there. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've been spoiled. I mean, what is this, like 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row that we've had awesome finishes? Obviously, it's not awesome to everybody. I apologize to Shane Lowry for the implosion that he had a couple weeks ago, but it made for great drama there. Obviously, Nico Echeverria getting that win, and then last week the Daniel Berger and Akshay Bhatia finish. This week you have Ludwig coming with a three-shot lead, and then the back-to-back with Fitzpatrick and Young. It was a great, great week. There's like so much to talk about, so I'll stop my rant there and see where you guys want to take it. But the back nine was such a blast to watch.
I think what's really interesting as well is I think they ran a graphic like right as the main broadcast was beginning that said the average position of the winner entering, excuse me, the average position of the winner entering the final round is around fourth place, and they're typically around three shots behind. And so this course does not lend to the 54 hole leader winning. And that's just something that I found really interesting. I really thought Ludwig was going to be the one to kind of break that trend, but obviously it just didn't happen that way.
And I mean, he was just in such control over the first 3 days of the tournament too. I mean, he was playing so well, so consistent. Even the front nine, he played at even par. He wasn't making too many mistakes. So to kind of just see the implosion, just goes to show further how tough it is to win playing 72 good holes of golf. That makes it so much tougher. I wanted to quickly touch on so Cam Young and Matt Fitzpatrick, as we were coming down, we saw Schauffele come in at 11, I think, and you
Mhm.
knew that probably wasn't going to be enough. So it kind of came down to Cam Young and Matt Fitzpatrick coming down the stretch, and the crowd clearly tilted towards Cam Young. And leaned into the USA chants and and they're like straight up booing Matt Fitzpatrick, which was not great. I thought it was kind of lame. But even Matt Fitzpatrick after the round said that was child's play, I think he said, compared to Beth Plays
Mhm.
Black. So obviously it wasn't a big factor to him. But Cam Young stepping up to 18 and driving an absolute bomb right in the fairway, the longest drive on 18 ever. I think that since
Mhm.
they've been recording that stat. So it was super interesting. So I just wanted to get your guys' take on, what you think, like as you said, Nick, Matt Fitzpatrick, the most accurate driver of the week, steps up to 18 and misses the fairway. What did you think the crowd, if anything, had anything to do with that? And people rooting for Cam Young. He was the only American up there, which is another thing we could get into, the American golfer. But what do you think about that finishing scene?
Yeah, I think first off, to just talk about the Ryder Cup implications, I think five of the players on the European team that were at Bethpage were in the top 10. And so Cam Young was completely sandwiched in between them. And I think, the Ryder Cup has been a point of conversation over the last few months, just kind of talking about fan culture, just kind of talking about how Fans acted at Bethpage. Obviously, it was embarrassing to our country. It was embarrassing to the sport of golf. Um, at the same time, I don't hate that they were kind of leaning and rooting. Like, it is not revolutionary that American fans are going to root for an American player on American soil. That's just it's to be expected. And
Do they
so
know
the
Matt Fitzpatrick went to Northwestern for a month? I
I
mean, can we
and
give
do
the
they
guy a little
know
credit?
that he is a contributor for New York Golf Club or whatever the hell that team's
Yeah, the
called?
TGL
Yeah,
team. Yeah.
yeah.
These are two TGL teammates, in fact. More
American
TGL.
mainstays. But so I didn't hate the USA chants. I actually loved them. I think anytime you can see a group of fans kind of rally around a player, I think that's really interesting. Um, I think it makes for a great showing. I didn't like the booze.
Yeah, goes
I
too far.
like when you like actively like you can root against a player in the sit by rooting for another player, but once you
Hmm.
start like actively rooting against that player, that's just poor sportsmanship. And I thought that was just unnecessary. And but to answer your other question, I think that what happened on 18 with Fitz was not a consequence of the fans, but I think it was more so just the fact that that hole does not fit his game off the tee. Like that's basically Fitz's MO is these like little bullet cuts that he just manages to flight. Like they put the side view of his shot and you look at like I'm resisting the urge to like stand up and demonstrate right now, but like just seeing how far his hands were ahead of the club head. Like he was able to flight those drives so like it was especially a really breezy day yesterday. And so
Hmm.
for him to flight it like he did, that's his like patented shot is that like little flighted cut. And when you need a draw on 18, that's just not the right shot. And I wish he was able to turn the ball over a little bit more on that shot, but I definitely think that that is what caused that shot to happen the way it did.
Yeah, I'll agree. I don't think these guys are so, dialed in and they've gone obviously like we said and like Fitz said, he was at Bethpage Black and endured a lot worse and played pretty well. So I don't think the fans had anything to do with that. I will agree that I think the boos were ridiculous. I will also disagree a little bit. I think the USA chants are a little stupid. I got to be honest. I'm all for rooting for people. Like I love Cam Young. He's one of my favorite golfers, probably good New York boy, just like me. But I like I don't know. I haven't really necessarily thought out a great opinion on this, but I just feel like the USA chants have their place at the Ryder Cup, at the President's Cup when that's like what is being played for. Cam Young being an American had absolutely nothing to do with like has nothing to do with this tournament
Hmm.
in the slightest to me. And like I
It
get that, but it does just feel maybe this is the wrong way to think about it, and maybe I'm assigning too much blame to people that don't necessarily deserve it to some of the people that were chanting the USA chants. To me, it's like that. Like I said, that has its place, but to me, I feel like a lot of people that were chanting USA likely do not actually have that much of a golf opinion between Cam Young and Matt Fitzpatrick. Like I don't think a lot of those people are like, man, I love Cam Young and this is how I'm going to express it. They're just like, I don't know, there's two guys at the top. I need to figure out who to root for. He's an American. Screw those guys. Like they just beat us at Bethpage Black. And I get that again. Like I also like, I'm a USA Ryder Cup fan, would love for them to win next time that we head over to Ireland. But yeah, I don't, to me, it was just a little bit over the top or like, misplaced, misdirected. I don't know. It felt like, a random thing to be chanting to try to inflate Cam Young or deflate Matt Fitzpatrick on the 18th hole. But I think the boos were really the main issue. Like the second Cam Young stepped off the tee box and Matt Fitzpatrick started walking up, you could hear like people, a pretty substantial amount of people booing as he's like approaching to put his tee and ball on the ground. Like, all right, there's not a place for that. The USA chance there are places for that. I just didn't think that the place for that is the 17th, 18th stretch of TPC Sawgrass.
There is a place for booze, and it is the 16th hole at TPC
That's true.
Scottsdale.
That's
And that
true.
is it.
There's one place for booze in the golf world.
I will say, I think what Fitz said in his presser was that this is something that he's experienced before. Remember Harbor Town against Jordan
Hmm.
Spieth? That's when we saw the USA chance. I don't remember booze, if I'm being honest. It was also 1:30 in the morning. I was in Italy and I was on a dodgy CBS stream trying to hopefully see Jordan Spieth win. It did not happen. I had an early morning class, was not in the greatest of moods. I don't remember the booze. I just
I don't
remember
think there
USA
were any.
chants. Yeah, this was kind of a bit extra. And like Fitz said, like I don't think we need to make I don't think we need to make a giant deal out of this. I think it was tacky. I don't think it really had a place. Obviously, it didn't impact them like we thought it would, but yeah, just not great.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think Will, you're totally spot on. It is just a lack of creativity where it's like, oh, one of these guys isn't American and one guy is, so let's just go with the USA chant.
Yeah.
I
Well, it's
mean,
the
we
same thing
saw
we
it with
saw at the Ryder
Rory.
Cup too. That like
Yeah,
When Rory and Shane were playing, they were like, "Man, like if you're gonna insult us, like at least be interesting about it." Like they're
for
just like,
sure.
insulting, like they're just saying stupid, like just yeah. Americans need a little more creativity in the insults. I think that's something well known that the Europeans do a hell of a lot better than we do.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
100%.
songs, like they turn their players' names into songs, and it's just like European Ryder Cups. Like I like in Rome, it was incredible. I'm really excited
You
for
got the
Ireland
quarter
just
zip on
because
to prove
I
it
yeah,
too. The
it's
Marcus
perfect.
Simone.
It was not even intentional, but this is perfect for the discussion we're having right now. I think the European fans just across all sports, even like
Well, I
not
mean, the songs, the names of the guys' songs, it all goes back to like European football. Like
right.
Yeah,
it's exactly it. They're the best crowds, the best fans, even like European basketball. It's crazy,
Oh my
dude.
dude.
gosh, you
Yeah.
watch a Serbian basketball game? Like
Is that what
it's
Jokic said? He's like, brother, I played in Serbia.
Yes, exactly.
right. So not to dish out some friendly fire here, but American fans are just miles behind.
Yeah. Okay, so how about we've done a lot of about the finish. How about some other guys who played well this week or who didn't
Uh,
play so well?
I do want to. I feel like we talked a lot about the finish, but we didn't talk that much about Cam Young. As
That's
you know,
fair. Yeah.
I do love me some Cam Young. I know I talked about him a lot over the past couple of weeks as somebody I really like, as somebody I want to watch
This is
this
your
year. And
moment, Will. Go for it.
I know this is my favorite, and I did text you guys. I've got a
This
two
is
month
why
old.
Will casts a wide net coming into each tournament. He's like, I'm picking
Yeah,
this guy, but this guy's just in case. And then there's this
I
other
like
guy
to
who I
take
really
credit.
like.
But I almost shouted out our who was it Sudarshan Yelmarahu on the way in here, but I didn't. No, Cam Young. I do have a 2 month old outstanding ticket on Fanatics, I believe, sportsbook for his PGA Championship odds, which I'm feeling pretty good about right now.
That's a
Birdie
good one.
Fest just plays into his hands, but I mean, he's just an awesome guy. He's so funny to see him in the post round pressers because he is like the most introverted, reserved guy. Like there was reporters asking him, "Why aren't you smiling?" And he's like, "I promise you, I'm really happy. I just don't outwardly show it." I was like, "Okay," but no, he's playing really well now. I mean, obviously, it took him 90 plus. I forget exactly what they said. Maybe 92 or 93 starts to win his first PGA Tour event, and then 10 starts between those two wins. Obviously, the first was the Wyndham. And since then, he's gone fifth, 11th, T4, T9, 10th, and then started off 2026, T22, T41, T55, but now T7, T3, and a win in his last three. Obviously, at big events, the Genesis, the Arnold Palmer, and the Players. And he just played a clean round. At the end of the day, like Ludvig needed to shoot a 71 to win this thing outright, shoot even par to get into a playoff with Cam Young. And obviously, he didn't really come close to sniffing either of those things. I think he shot a 76, like we talked about, but. Um, Man, Cam Young obviously completely like re not fixed his game, but like completely he's really set himself up for a ton of success by getting that putter on track. Like obviously that was a huge thing that kept him from being in the upper echelon of golfers for a long time, at least on the PGA Tour. And now that he's got that thing rolling, it wasn't even like fantastic this week. I didn't think like it was good, but it is obviously not a glaring weakness anymore for him. And he's a great approach player. Probably hit the best drive of his life on 18. Just baby draw down the right side, 375, like you said, longest ever on the 18th hole at TPC Sawgrass, at least in tournament play. So yeah, that's my little spiel. I do love me some Cam Young, and I do not think that he's done this year. But I do have one thing that I saw on X, courtesy of Monday Q Info, who is a fantastic follow if you guys don't follow him. But it just was talking about how Cam Young is a testament of like what makes golf so awesome and what makes these qualifiers so awesome is that, a handful of years ago he didn't have status anywhere. He Monday qualified into a Corn Ferry Tour event in Nebraska, finished 11th there, which got him to the next event, 14th that one to get into the next event, then sixth, then second, got membership on the PGA Tour, on the Corn Ferry Tour, and now he's a Ryder Cup veteran and a Players Champion. So it's a good testament. He's like a great example of a dude who just like really embodies what makes this sport so weird and so awesome that, a guy with no status anywhere can put in the work, put in the time, find his way somehow into one event, and next thing you know, a few years later, he's holding up one of the biggest trophies in the sport.
And that's
Pretty
why,
cool.
like, I know we said we weren't going to talk about this, but just talking about just looking at sort of the proposed schedule additions for next year, it seems like, they're really trying to move away from like the 70-person no cut and just move back towards like larger fields. And I think that that's the move. Like, I
Yeah.
think you're not gonna, when it comes to especially with a week like this, you're not gonna get the Cam Youngs at like a Monday qualifier for these 70-person events. You're not going to get, this is the perfect segue. You're not going to get the Sudarshan Yellow Mirages. Like,
Yeah, which
what
was
was
awesome, by the
that?
way.
Like, that was
So sick.
incredible. That was
Yeah, that's
I
another.
heard like they showed one of his shots on, I think this was one of the first times they showed him on TV, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like at first I honestly thought it was, I saw like a left-handed skinny putter. I'm like, is this Akshay? Like I I totally didn't even recognize him and didn't even know he was playing. But just to see him kind of come out of nowhere was a really inspiring story.
Yeah, he's got like such a long, like lagging swing too. Like the iron shots they show of him, it's just like the I don't know. It's a wild shot to see, but like you said, his story is ridiculous. I'm sure this has made the rounds over the past 24 hours. So we won't go too far into depth of it, but it's worth mentioning. Born in India, moved to Canada. He got into golf through YouTube, built his swing by watching Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy swings on YouTube, and didn't wasn't a high level recruit, turned pro at 19, and found his way onto the Corn Ferry Tour in 2024. Held onto his card. Now he's got a PGA Tour card by finishing 19th, like pretty much right on the bubble of the Corn Ferry Tour last year. And only 24 years old now. Obviously, only what is it, 8 or 9 starts into his PGA Tour career, I think. This was his eighth. So T17 finished the Cognizant to get him in FedEx Cup position to get here in the first place. And you know, the what was it? It ended up being a T5 at 9 under, and he had the best round of the best weekend, by the way, of anybody, well, tied for with Robert McIntyre. But he shot 66, what was it, 66, 68 on the weekend to be 10 under on the weekend, and be equal with Bobby McIntyre there, which is ridiculous, considering it was playing so hard. Like, just it truly was not playing easy. There was not really 66, 68 out there on Saturday and Sunday, but he found it. So all credit to him. Like really an awesome story, and it got him all the way up. And I know we're very early in the season, and there's a lot of big events to play, but he's up into the top 30 in the FedEx Cup right now, which is pretty cool to see. Like one event like that can, I think he more than doubled his career earnings, just through a T5 at the Players. So one event like that can really change around a whole season, and like we saw with Cam Young, can really set him on who knows what path, you know, for the
Yeah,
future.
I think he made more money with this one than he had in any other in
Hmm.
all his collective PGA Tour earnings before, which is awesome. And they were showing him on the broadcast as he was coming down, the back nine. And I can't remember, maybe it was on 18. They showed him, giving high fives to the fans, like going out
I
to
was on
go,
17, walking up to the green.
17. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time he's really been featured at all. So that was really cool to see. And just another, no ode to how cool golf is and the stories. But it also hits on something they were talking about on the broadcast yesterday. I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. Was the advantage that lefties seem to have on this course. Robert McIntyre was in there till the end. He finished fourth. We had Akshay was T13, who's been playing well. Obviously, we know him.
Hmm.
And what do you guys think of the
Brian
advantage?
Harmon, T11.
Harmon T11, yeah. What do you guys think of that?
It's kind of what Nick said, to be honest. Like the fact, like the safe shot for a lot of these guys, the tee it low, kind of Bernie cut down the middle, and you need safe shots here. And obviously for righties, like we talked about this Um, I think last Wednesday we mentioned it a little bit, but just where the trouble is, it plays a little bit into the lefties' hands, especially on a hole like 18. Like Nick talked about how much of an issue that is for a righty. Like the reason Cam Young hit such a great drive is because he put his all into that drive. If you're
Hmm.
playing with like if you're trying to hit a fairway finder on 18, it's actually way harder to find the fairway because the shot shape just doesn't work. But for lefties, it kind of lends itself a little bit to it. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, but just some the way the trouble works and the way lefties shape the ball. Obviously, it's a little different between a couple of these guys, but guys like Brian Harmon, this course doesn't necessarily require a ton of length off the tee, which lends itself to his game a little bit. Robert McIntyre too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's like the longest off the tee. I kind of think of him more as an accuracy player rather than a brute force player. I could be wrong
Yeah,
in that,
I
honestly,
don't
because
think so.
a lot of these guys have really weird, sneaky distance. But let's see. Yeah,
Well, now it seems like with
291,
the
like kind of in the middle.
yeah, I mean,
More of an accuracy guy off the tee. But yeah, so I think in that way, it might be in part just the fact that one, these lefties are really good. Robert McIntyre is really good. Akshay is really good. But I mean, yeah, Sudarshan Yelmarahu, not a name we knew at all, and comes in here and performs. And maybe part of that is just the fact that like in windy conditions on weekends and stuff, like he's able to the shot shape just kind of fits that safer shot that lefties are able to exploit. Maybe it's all theory. I have no idea, but that's what I would guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, like you said, and that brings us to just where the trouble was. I think the one interesting stat I said, you want to move into your prove me wrong, Will? I feel like we can.
Sure, yeah, we got to talk about him at some point.
So looking at Scottie Scheffler, it was just a weird, especially in his first round. Like you could tell he was really fighting the drive, and like it was just not going his way. If you really look at it, I'm trying to pull up the stats here. According to Jamie Kennedy at Golf Digest. Scottie Scheffler has led the PGA Tour in right rough avoidance over the last 3 seasons. Just he missed right just 10% of the time, and yet every single one of so he only hit 7 fairways on Thursday, and every single one of his misses was came on the right side, and which that's not even so like one of those fairways came from a members
Hit a tree,
bounce
right? Yeah.
that it was going miles right and ended up just bouncing to the middle. So like that should be another one out to the right, and he gets bailed out by that stat. But and he talked to and this is where he gets a little, I don't want to steal too much of this because it was your pick, but this is where I get confused because I think what you mentioned last week, Will, was like he can't we're officially approaching the point of the season where he can't we can't hide behind the, oh, it's just not a good round of, just a couple breaks didn't go my way, like
Yeah, small sample
he
size, stuff like
right.
that.
Like, I think what he was saying was, he made a really big point that he was using last year's driver and kind of like almost got defensive in saying, like, guys, this was the driver that I was absolutely dominant with. And that's almost worse if you have one of your worst rounds off the tee with the driver that you were on top of the world with. That doesn't help your case. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and there was somebody who said, I forget what round it was, maybe it was Saturday, or maybe even Friday actually, but I think it was Friday. They mentioned that I forget who it was. One of the people following Scotty's featured group on the mic was basically talking about how they had been at the range and they'd seen Scotty hit, zero right balls, just like no issue at all. And obviously, we all, every golfer at every level plays a little differently on the range than they do on the course. But it does, they were saying, and I would agree that it does indicate some sort of like the barrier is more mental than it is physical. I mean, there's something in there where I think he's starting to question himself now as well. And what I wrote down, obviously, my prove me wrong guy being somebody that I'm like, man, you gotta do something for me because I'm not seeing it right now, and I'm still not, and this was honestly worse. I mean, I think what I wrote down is a little bit maybe even more shocking to me. Like I don't know. You guys tell me what's more worrying is the wrong word because it's a T22 at the Players Championship and he's still the best golfer in the world, right? But from the perspective of this, who we know this man is and how great he is at golf, like historically and currently, it was maybe weirder to me this week seeing him just have like a really pedestrian, like kind of boring T22 finish rather than have like a really explosively bad first round and then battle your way towards the top again. Like I know he had a great Saturday round. He had a shot of 67 on Saturday that was quite good, one of the best in the field. But it just this did not feel like a fighting round. Like he didn't. It felt very boring to me and very like this just isn't a guy who's hitting great shots and like playing at the top of his game. And to me, that's like that feels a little bit more like okay, that's a little concerning, more so than like if you're just having a bad Thursday round. Because like you said, Thursday round, like I don't know how much credibility I lend to the Thursday rounds being a mental hurdle for him. Happened a couple weeks in a row. There was obviously something there, but I'm more concerned about the fact that he just can't seem to. He just doesn't seem like the same player right now. Obviously, we're so early in the season, and I am not extrapolating this to major championships or anything. Like for all I know, he could have a Scottie slam by the end of the year. But it is worth the microscope is we're like zooming in a little bit. Like first we were like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and then it's like, okay, this has happened a few too many weeks in a row, and now it's like, okay, well now he's blowing drives right. He's like clearly unhappy with his putter. You saw the missed putt and then like the sarcastic fist pump, which I know again, this is not the first time he's done that. He's done a couple of those like fist pumps where I think
I
earlier
mean,
this year he gave it a big thumbs up when he missed one, right? Like,
every missed putt, he acts like it's the first missed putt. It's getting like, dude, you really got to do this every time. Like he looks exasperated every putt. It's
yeah.
God, it's good. It's almost a little annoying, honestly.
And
Yeah.
I
I mean,
think
again,
you
like, no, you're good. I was just going to reiterate, like, best golfer in the world, and he's going to be fantastic, and I'm not worried about it, but I'm worried about it a little bit starting
yeah, and
tonight.
I think you said it perfectly where those first couple bad starts was like we all just kind of like after Phoenix, we all just kind of laughed it off and said, "Oh, well, slow start, but yeah, he's still winning this thing." And he almost did. And there was like a couple tournaments in a row where he had that slow start and we knew with 100% certainty that yeah, he was still probably going to win this thing. But now it's 2 weeks in a row. It was the same thing at Bay Hill where it was very apparent on Thursday, and then like Friday was going to be the make or break day, and then it was very clear right away he was not going to be a factor in this tournament at all. And I think, like you said, it was a boring tournament for him, except for I mean, Saturday was almost it was almost worse for him to shoot what he did on Saturday because it was just so meaningless.
Yeah. I think it's exactly what you said before the tournament on Wednesday, right? That like, if we know by Friday that he's out of this tournament again, like that's when we got to start being like, okay, maybe there's something here. And it's just like the double bogeys that you don't usually see out of Scotty, like that kind of stuff. And then, but yeah, like to go out there Saturday and shoot a bogey-free 5 under 67 on like a difficult day, it's like what, like where are we grabbing that from randomly? And then, I don't know. It
Well,
was a very weird tournament.
well, earlier in the year, he did say that those late tee times were hindering him. So maybe he just decided I'm just going to be teeing off early on Saturday and Sunday now to
Yeah,
help out my
yeah, that's his
scores.
best strategy.
I mean, I think
So,
the one thing as well was that, and again, it's that kind of defensiveness that I haven't really been accustomed to seeing from Scottie Scheffler in the past. They asked him after his Saturday round, I think, like, did you find anything on the range that
Mm,
maybe helped you to? And this is probably the biggest quote that kind of set off the alarm bells for me. I think he said something along the lines of, I'm not going to say I found anything because that would imply that I was lost, and I'm not
yeah.
lost. But he looks pretty lost to me. Like,
Yeah, it's just like why yeah, he seems so hesitant to admit that something's wrong. Like, and it's fine. I get that he's again, like I feel bad or not bad. I feel, having a whole segment talking about somebody who's playing bad and T22 is his worst finish on the year at the biggest tournament thus far always feels weird. when the expectation and the history has proven that this is a guy that we should expect in events like this to be in the top five every single time when the field, like at least in this field, maybe not, when Tiger Woods was playing, but uh, like this is a guy who is the best golfer since Tiger Woods, like or who has put it together for the most years in a row. So like I don't know. Again, feels weird to complain about, but I'm just like, man, I'm he need. It is weird to see him in those post round press conferences be like, nothing's wrong. Like, what are you guys even talking about? It's like, dude, I just saw you shoot like finish T22 with the players. Like, that's not.
Right.
I know that
And
that's a good finish, but something's wrong. That's not what you're supposed to do here.
yeah, and I think I forget, and it might have been Brandel. I forget who was saying it, but when it comes to a player like Scotty, it's almost harder to because like I was trying to like look at his swing, like when he was flaring it out to the right. I was trying to like see if I could analyze like what he's doing differently. And that's the problem is his swing is so weird that you
Yeah, it always
can't
looks wrong.
yeah, it always it's like you can't even look and see what he's doing to try and analyze it. I think what I saw as well was he was when he was trying to hit draws, he was back to like contorting his entire body, which is something I haven't seen
Where
him
he
do in
finishes that like weird low left finish. Like,
right. And so I
yeah,
think what Brandel was saying was that when you have a swing like that, it's so hard to fix it because you're already doing weird stuff. And so it's really hard to pinpoint where that like abnormality is because the entire thing
yeah.
is abnormal.
Well, I mean, yeah, you want to like slow it down and be like, actually, Scotty, when you're making contact with the ball while you're levitating an inch off the ground and your left foot's behind you and wide open, you actually need to turn your right. Like, like when all that stuff is happening already and everything's crazy, and it obviously has worked for him in the past, but I got to imagine it's way harder to pinpoint an issue in that circumstance, like you said.
Well, and this is the burden you bear when you establish yourself as a cut above everybody else. And he's got the most tour wins over the last few years, 20, right, which is more than double anybody else. And in a sport that is an already individual sport and coming off of Tiger's dominant run of 20 years he had, we're looking to crown the next Tiger, and Scotty's now that guy. And this is the first time he's faced real adversity where over the last couple of years, he's won a tournament, it seemed like every few weeks. And now, since he won at the American to kick off this year, he hasn't done it over the last month and a half or so. So, it's I'm sure it's frustrating for him because he still feels like he's playing decent. It's not like he's been terrible. He's just not playing up to the level that is. And it's just a different scrutiny. And I'm sure as he goes on further, he'll get more used to that. But it's going to be a storyline. That's what happens. We're looking to
Yeah.
crown these guys.
Just looking at it really quickly, this is the first time he's had back-to-back finishes outside the top 20 since the Open Championship and the FedEx Cup and the FedEx St. Jude in 2023, and since then he has 17 wins. So
Yeah.
it's not nothing. It's been 3 years. I feel like I'm allowed to be like, okay, man, this is something. If it hasn't happened in two plus full PGA Tour seasons, and you've won 17 wins, and I didn't look at I think four majors probably since then in 24, 25, three, four
Yeah.
majors.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it hasn't happened in 3 years is probably where his confidence is coming from in the sense of like, guys, like I always figure it out. Like I always, this is ne I'm never in these slumps. So like I can understand why he's confident that he could break out of this, but at the same time, like I can also understand why a lot of people, myself included, is realizing now that I might have picked probably the worst fantasy golf team of all time is raising a little bit of alarm bells here.
Well, it's just,
Yeah.
he since he started this, he just hasn't had a stretch like this, so it's only natural, but they'll have a chance to right the ship. How about a couple other big names who played pretty well this weekend? JT and Brooks Koepka. Brooks was pretty damn good and could have finished with Justin Thomas at T8 if he wouldn't have double bogeyed 18. But encouraging for those guys, and I think Justin Thomas we're about to see is going to be a popular pick for this next week at Valspar.
Yeah, no spoilers, but I do have dibs on the Justin Thomas experience at Valspar. I'm like so confident. I think I called it at like midday Sunday. I was like, guys, I need it. The great finishes out of both. Brooks is, I think, is back. I think I'm happy saying that I'm not. This is not, multi-time major champion Brooks Koepka, but Brooks Koepka is back as a competitive force in the PGA Tour, um, and that's exciting. He, like you said, I think double bogey on the 72nd to finish T13 at 6 under. He had a good weekend too. It should have been 69-69. Ended up 69-71 with that double, but um, yeah, it's just good to see them back. I don't know. JT obviously pretty horrific showing last week. Obviously that was his first week back from the surgery. As we all know, he's been practicing a ton and stuff like that, but he's been practicing a ton, but that's nothing compared to like going out to Bay Hill and trying to, you know, play PGA Tour level competitive golf. But I mean, he came out of the gates at 68-68. He was 8 under through 2 rounds and then just kind of stagnated on the weekend, finished with two even par rounds on Saturday, Sunday. But he was up there. I mean, if you he's a couple shots away from being in very real contention on Sunday at this thing. So it was great to see him. And then, like I said, Brooks, I didn't honestly catch a ton of his like actual play. Um, like just purely watching, but it's good to see a good finish out of him. And it seemed like the ball striking was back. I saw a handful of close iron shots, close approach shots.
Yeah, and I think I went back and looked. So it was T13 at the Players, T9 at the Cognizant, and I know I mentioned last week that T9 at the Cognizant is not the same as a top 10 anywhere else. And that's where I wanted to see him maybe get into the top 10, maybe just like top 15 finish. Like that would be, I'm still not ready to like pick him for tournament wins or anything like that, but I think we can at least say that the game is like that was the big test of like can he compete amongst some of the best players in the world. And I think aside from maybe like one or two people, they were all at TPC Sawgrass, and it was I definitely saw him compete. I definitely saw him just sort of have that force, knowing now that he can probably contend at some of these events now, and at least have some kind of presence that really has been lacking for the majority of his comeback so far.
Is there one more guy you might want to talk about a little bit, Nick? Just a tiny bit.
Oh man, you know what? I went through this, so I feel like I need to have everybody go through this. We saw a marquee episode of the Jordan Spieth experience on Friday. That was, I mean, let's look at so I think he shot 1 under on Thursday to open, just kind of unimpressive, really. He was kind of hovering at 1 under the entire day. Would have been like given the weather, would have been a good score to finish with. And then tugged it into the water on 18, just did not hit a good shot and ended up coming in for double. And so he sort of had a similar start on and Friday. What the hell? On Friday, had a similar start. And she's like, he's got me speaking in tongues, guys. So he started on the back nine. Um, he opened with a bogey. Once again, not very impressive. And then answered back with a bogey on the par 5 11th, four straight pars. Then he put the pedal to the metal and shit started to get crazy. Um, Birdies on the 16th and 17th, back on the 18th hole. Spieth hits it way right. Like he's pissed. He's like you could just see the ball sailing right, hits a tree, bounces forward into the middle of the fairway, like the absolute perfect bounce. And so then he birdied the first hole, um, which on the second hole as well, he clipped the tree on his drive. He did not have a good
Did he
lie.
even?
Kind of,
Yeah. Did he make it to the fairway on the
I don't
drive
think
there? Or
he
was it just
did.
short of the
Yeah.
fairway?
I think it was like 200 yards, barely made it to the front of the fairway, if even anything. Had to like advance it with a 7 iron and then left himself with an 8 iron, which he put shorts like just off onto the fairway. Had about a 50-foot putt, which naturally he made for
Right.
birdie. Um, so immediately after draining a 50-footer, he had about 6 feet for, I believe, his sixth birdie in a row that would have, I think, it was either going to tie or set his most birdies in a row on his PGA Tour career. and he just kind of lipped out on a 5 footer, which was kind of a
It's
rough
tough.
look.
Yeah.
But he got one more birdie, and then stepped up to the ninth hole, tugged it left off the tee again. Did not have a he had tree trouble, really just could only manage to advance himself like 50 yards back onto the fairway. Had about 255 to the pin, had the 3 wood, and like the ball didn't even reach at the apex before he was already like motioning to get another ball from Greller. Like that, like full on like tin cup moment. Um, so then we go away for like 5 6 minutes, and then the next player on the broadcast, you see somebody standing behind a tree. You don't need to put two and two to know if there's somebody standing behind a
You
tree,
knew who it
it's
was.
probably it's probably Jordan. But then he hit it out into the bunker, did not get up and down for bogey. Back to back days with a double to end his round. Could have been an all timer, could have been great. It would have been one like I think he was on pace. If he parred the ninth hole, it would have been a 66, which he hasn't shot anything better than a 66 at TPC Sawgrass since about 2023, I think. Um, it just this has not been a course that has been kind to him over the years. He kind of talked about it in his press conference afterwards about how he kind of gets a bit impatient around here and he just kind of tries to force things. And it's something that he's been working on over the years. And yet 13 years later, he still is making these same mistakes. He's still forcing these shots. Um, I've been talking about him for way too long. I think I'll end with this perfect little tidbit from his presser. They asked him, like, even though not a great finish, there's still a lot of positives to take from the round. Are you going to be able to focus on those at all? And you just point blank, you think, no. Like, have you ever played golf? Like, it was just so relatable, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's impressive. I was just looking at his page. It's impressive that this is his second best finish at the Players in since 2015 or since 2014. Really, he had a T4 in 2014, but to have like all those very Jordan Spiethy mistakes and still find his way up to a decent-ish finish. Obviously, not what you were hoping for, but I'm still clinging on to. I know you're clinging on to hope, Nick. I won't even pretend to be clinging quite as hard as you, but I do still have some faith that there's something in there that he can put together 4 rounds this year at some point.
And so, like,
Hopefully at a big event, but
we're not going to talk about Saturday. That was just there's so much that went. Like, I think I was looking at the strokes gained. I think he lost 5 strokes putting on Saturday, which was
5. Oh my God.
like
How can you
that's
even do that?
impressive. Like that was I
That's
think
so
he
hard to
just
do.
like I think he made like a triple and then I think he just like checked out for the day, which we've seen it
I
happen
mean,
before, but um that
it
was
was
just
5. That is a real thing.
I think I mentioned that my one hesitation with him was the ability to kind of just like take charge of a round and like not just string together like one or two like really good holes, but just like surge and like really kind of take charge of a round and like just make a push. And that was a push on Friday. Like obviously he didn't finish well, but like that is the very definition of what I was looking for. And so he's played very well at the Valspar. So I'm just gonna leave it as a
Uh-oh.
surprise who I may or may
Uh-oh.
not be picking this week.
Oh no. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're definitely clinging to more hope than I am, but hey, you never know. It could be done. All right. That was good stuff.
Any any other words on the Players? I mean, I thought it lived up to the hype. The course was awesome. It was
Oh, it
beautiful.
was
They
great.
want to make it seem
Absolutely.
like a major, and it played up to it. I mean, it's just a spectacular course. It really
What a
is.
tournament. It's so
Yeah.
fun. It's like such a weird like letdown. I'm like preview. I'm like, okay, the Valspar Championship at Innisbrook. Let's lock in. Like after talking. I like the Valspar. I like Innisbrook. It's after the Players, after that tournament, you're just like, okay, gotta like reset expectations for a little while until we get out to Augusta. But no, man, that was a great week. Great week of golf. We have been spoiled, like I said, over the past couple weeks, and that was kind of the cherry on top of what we've had going on for a month now.
Yeah, I mean, had everything that you would be looking for out of a major with that finish, but um, we
Not a
don't need to
major.
call it that. Not a major.
Not a
I
major.
do want to very, very, very briefly. Jacob Bridgman might just be like really good at golf and might just
Yeah.
be continuing to be up at the top of these leaderboards the whole week. He was one of those guys that, I kind of put in obviously he won last year, and has already, he won this year, but he's somebody that I kind of put in the category of like, I expect him to win a couple smaller PGA Tour events here and there, but he's just, proven that he belongs. T5 at the Players, T18 at the Arnold Palmer, won the Genesis, T8 at the AT&T Pebble Beach. For the first four signature events of 2026, that is no worse than T18 plus, a win in there. So good for him, man. I'm going to be giving him a little bit more respect in the coming weeks and months for sure than I have been so far.
Yeah, it's like you look up to the leaderboard and you're like, damn, he's up there again. It's
I know,
crazy.
he just keeps
It's
doing
every
it.
week. Every week.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Good for him. Okay, so should we move on and touch on the other golf tournament that was going on?
I mean, as briefly as possible. Yes, let's let's give it a
I,
little chatter,
I
but
think there's
shout out
only
Bryson.
one thing to say. Yeah, Bryson won after Richard T. Lee missed. I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter or socials everywhere.
Yeah.
A really short 2 foot putt, kind of brutal.
And common mistake, Richard T. Lee is not a United States president. That is actually a man who plays golf on the Live Golf Tour, apparently.
The
Um,
the
it's a
other
bummer to miss a 2-footer, but
Yeah, I mean the only other clip I saw from this was Bryson going head over heels into the bunker.
I
One of
did
the
see
things.
that. Took a little tumble.
Yeah. But he was wearing shorts, so it's good to be at the beach
He
wearing
was
shorts.
wearing shorts but arm sleeves, which is like such a bizarre pairing. He had the
The live
double
combo
the
right there.
double shooting sleeves on both arms. Maybe I should try that out. Maybe that's what's keeping me from being just a top tier golfer. Is the I only wear
Absolutely.
one arm sleeve. Maybe I just need the second one.
It's the equipment.
Put
It's got to
together.
be.
It is. It can't be me.
It
Definitely not. My
always
swing is perfect.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those finishes where you could tell you saw the look on Bryson's face when he missed the putt, where it's like, yeah, obviously you want to win, but like you don't want to win like
Not like
that.
that. No,
no,
never like
brutal.
that. That's the worst.
Totally brutal.
Which is why not to go back to players. That's why the only thing that I was bummed about is that Cam Young missed that birdie putt and it ended on a Fitzpatrick missed par putt rather than a made birdie putt to shut this thing out.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's not worth delving into a whole thing about. But no, that was the only tour that did anything this week, which a lot of the players is on. A lot of other tours are shut down to give the players the spotlight. But Live Golf out there in Singapore, just chugging away.
Yep.
All right, how about a major update here real quick, Will, if you want to update us
Real quick.
after the
Yeah, real
players.
quick because there frankly wasn't much movement. Again, it's just like talking through how the week on the PGA Tour and elsewhere affected who's into major championships, but there wasn't a lot to talk about. Players champion Cameron Young was already in everywhere through, he won the Wyndham, he was in the top 30 of the Tour Championship, a couple other spots where he had exemptions from prior finishes at the US Open, etc. So no change for him. Obviously, Live Golf Singapore, we just talked about Bryson wins. He is also already exempted to all majors because of his major wins. The only thing worth mentioning on Live, which we've talked about, is that for the US Open and the Open, there are like Live Golf individual standing exemptions. For the US Open, it's the top player who's not otherwise exempt and is in the top three of the Live Golf individual standings as of the conclusion of the PGA Championship, which is mid-May, obviously a ways away. For the Open Championship, it's the highest ranking player on the season standings for individuals as of the conclusion of Live Golf Louisiana, which is at the end of June. So again, ways away right now. Those exemptions would go to Elvis Smiley. Um, John Rahm is first in the Live Golf individual rankings. Bryson DeChambeau is second, and Elvis Smiley is third. So worth monitoring if you're curious. But we got at least what is that? We got 2 months before either of those even really start to kick in. So then it's really the only thing worth checking out this week was really the OWGR stuff, who jumped, who fell. And again, there really wasn't a lot of action. Michael Thorbjornsen moved back towards the cut line. He had, like we very briefly touched on it, but a fairly brutal 77 in the final round. He was playing in the final pairing with Ludvig, which I do want to mention, not as too much of an aside, is a sick final pairing. I think that was awesome. Two PGA Tour U graduates, two really young guys, two like Ludvig, obviously a little bit more proven than Michael Thorbjornsen is. Also spent more time on the PGA Tour than Michael Thorbjornsen has, but two guys that I think we're all really excited to see their careers pan out. A little unfortunate that they cumulatively shot 9 over in the final round, but you can't have it all. But he did, despite that bad final round, finish T22 at the Players, so he moved back up towards that top 50 in OWGR, which gets you into the Masters. He's just outside of it now, I believe, at 55th. Nikolai Højgaard and Pearson Coody swapped places, so Højgaard is now in, Pearson Coody is now out. But again, even for the Masters, we are probably 3 weeks away from this being finalized, and some big events like the Valspar will be a big event for those guys kind of around the bubble of the top 50 to try to prove themselves, get themselves a good finish. Obviously, we saw, you know, Nico Echeverria vault up pretty high following um, his win a couple weeks ago, and you never know. Obviously, Daniel Berger jumped 30 spots, obviously for a bigger event, but that was the second place finish at the Arnold Palmer. So a lot to still go, but yeah, that's kind of where we stand right now. Worth checking out that OWGR bubble, and maybe we'll have a little bit more drama at the Valspar with a slightly weaker field. Obviously, when you have these big fields, the guys who win, it's like they're almost always all exempt into all these things anyway. But you know, that's about all I got.
Nice. Yeah. Always good to update that stuff. Little bubble talk too, the day after Selection Sunday. Gotta love that.
I
So
know, I know. We might have to figure out a little March Madness themed situation for the next episode if we can piece it together. But
yeah, I'd say an OWGR bubble talk might be a good one, actually.
yeah, it's not bad.
Maybe.
I might have to just throw my final four picks up on the gram too, on the Instagram. Just I'm sure everybody's interested to see what we're thinking. I'll delete it if it goes poorly. It'll be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Gotta save
All right.
face.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay, so we will be back here on Wednesday, of course, with a Valspar preview as well as a couple other tournaments going on. Reminders, we've got our fantasy golf standings. So just to update that real quick, Nick had Ludvig, who of course was T5, so he got 3 points for that. Will had Victor Hovland after he cursed Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, we didn't even talk
Who,
about that.
Will,
Yeah.
can you speak to
Oh
that
yeah.
real
Should we
quick?
talk about the fact that I'm vexing golfers left and right?
Yeah, I'd say
It's
we
actually
got to.
becoming problematic. I mean, I wonder what I somebody who's better at statistics than me, figure out what the odds are of me picking somebody who WDs 2 weeks in a row. I mean, it was Jake Knapp last week with the illness, and then that kind of ruined Kyle's Jake Knapp pick this week. And then yeah, Colin Morikawa this week. I might have won had he played, but it was such a brutal Thursday wake up. I like happened to wake up at, whatever it is, 7:15 in the morning. I roll over. I'm like, oh, sweet. Like my guy's starting. Like he's on the 10th. Like it was his first hole. I think he was on the back nine though. I was like, this is perfect. Like I'll tune on in, open up my computer. He steps up to the tee, takes a practice swing, grabs his lower back and calls a trainer over. And I was like, okay, cool. Now I got to put out a tweet that I'm switching to Victor Hovland before he starts so people don't accuse me of cheating. But I'm a little concerned about what my powers might be. I'm debating if maybe for the Valspar, I guess Justin Thomas, I already kind of announced that I'm out here for you. So I'm really sorry if you start to feel ill around Wednesday. It's not my intent. I might start in the future, like putting my pick in a sealed envelope so nobody, including whatever witch is vexing my players, can see it. And I will take it out of that envelope on Sunday evening and we can all, collectively see if I was right or just how wrong I was. But fortunately, I don't think I have the trust built up for me to quite pull that off. But no, it's been a
Especially when you're the guy
concerning
making
few
the
weeks.
graphics.
Yeah, yeah. When I'm the social media guy, uh, yeah, man, it's been like legitimately a shocking 2 weeks to have that happen back to back. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, how many guys? I don't even know if I can pull it up quickly. How many guys even WD'd from this? Was it just Colin?
I think it might have
Maybe
been
one
just
more.
Colin, yeah.
I mean, three
Let's see.
weeks in a row
WDs were
would
Colin
be.
Morikawa. Yeah, just Colin Morikawa. Sick.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
that's cool. So that's a bummer. I'm really hoping that trend doesn't continue. my backup picks have done pretty well. Victor did solid, although he didn't really follow it
Convenient,
up on Sunday. And
conveniently.
yeah, yeah, conveniently.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's only a couple, this week Colin was the only withdraw. A couple weeks ago, I know there's been a couple guys who's been sick and stuff, but
yeah.
for it to happen one time is already weird. For it to happen twice is bordering scary. If it
Back to
happens
back
three
weeks.
times, we're gonna have to like
Yeah.
do some kind of seance and an
Yeah.
exorcism.
If we might have to break out the Ouija board if Justin Thomas's back
I
flares
mean,
up or something.
Justin Thomas should
Crystal
be
ball,
just kept in like in a bubble or something for these next few
hyperbaric
years.
chamber, one
I
of
Just
mean,
those
Justin
Aaron
ensure
Thomas, he
Rodgers.
he
he is
might be the
on lookout.
sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. What does Aaron Rodgers use? Those sensory deprivation tanks. Just put Justin
Yeah.
Thomas in one of those. Just don't let anything
God.
touch him for 3 days.
Let's hope
Yeah,
Justin Thomas is immunized. Was that what Aaron
I think
Rodgers
that's
said?
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Vaccinated, immunized.
No, not vaccinated.
Not vaccinated,
Immunized.
immunized. Let's hope, man. Yeah, it's been a tough few weeks in the Will Neary camp, but we're on the up and up. I'm feeling good about my pick this week, and I'm trying to channel as much positive energy towards Justin Thomas as I can because I'm a little worried about his health now that I've picked him. But
Yeah, it's definitely something to be fearful. So that's and I had Napster, which didn't make the cut unfortunately, but I'll blame Will for that one, not myself. And even after me not gaining any points these last couple weeks, I'm still ahead. So
the
feeling
that
good about
Echeverria
that.
pick is gonna
Oh, it's gonna
gonna
carry me
That's
carry
for a
you
gonna save
all
while.
you.
year
I
long.
need to keep accumulating just some minor points here and there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will, like I said, be back on Wednesday, and then of course we're gonna have our official picks out following Wednesday's pod. Shout out social media at Center Cup Pod. Will and Nick both do a great job on that. Like I said at the top of the show, check out our TikTok if you kind of want to see a more in-depth look at those PGA Tour scheduling updates. Our Instagram and TikTok is at centercup.pod. And of course, you can always email us at centercup.pod@yahoo.com. Any final words, boys?
No.
Nope.
Shout out Brian Rollup. He's doing God's work out there in the PGA Tour
Absolutely.
headquarters.
Love that man.
Amen. All right. Well, we will see you here on Wednesday. As always, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.